I started with my present job on February 14th, 1973. The company was located at One Liberty Plaza. The Twin Towers were just across the street and were still under construction. The firm moved into One World Trade Center in 1981, occupying the 56th through the 59th floor. Almost from the very beginning of entering that building, I felt something very eerie. Back then, I was working a 9-to-5 shift. At home, during the night, I was having nightmares about terrorists in black uniforms running rampant throughout the building with machine guns killing everyone that moved. And as usual, when they were confronted by me, I was always cowering in the men's room. They would always find me, but before I'm shot and killed, I would wake up. These dreams were happening to me constantly, like a movie that keeps repeating itself. The department that I work in has 3 shifts. It's a 24-hour department in word processing. The third shift operators always complained that ghost sightings were quite common almost on a nightly basis. I would find that to be very true once I started on the midnight shift years later. Much of Manhattan buildings were built on Indian burial ground, African burial ground, Dutch burial ground. I truly believe that the World Trade Center was built on some burial ground. The building was not landfilled like the World Financial Center close by. The first bombing happened on February 26, 1993. I was washing my face in the men's room when the explosion happened. Immediately, I knew it was a bomb because of the acoustics of the men's room. I ran out into the corridors towards my department and announced that I heard explosions. The lights were going off and on until finally we were in total darkness for about 3 minutes. When the lights came back on, we saw billows of black smoke rapidly racing towards us. Within seconds, we were engulfed with black smoke, hardly able to see the person next to us. We ran for the stairways to exit the building. It took 2 hours to vacate the building back then. The parking attendants that I knew died, unfortunately, that morning. I was promoted to supervise the midnight shift years later, and the amount of ghosts that I witnessed is too many to report in this article. However, I will write about a few that are very interesting. One night, we hired a temp from a temping agency. This was her first night in the World Trade Center, and she knew nothing about our famous ghosts. At about 3 a.m., she asked to go to the ladies' room. The corridors in the Trade Center were about a half block long in either direction, and to get to the ladies' room, one would need to walk midway the corridor, turn left at the corridor's intersection, and walk about halfway that corridor. When the temp began her journey to the ladies' room, she immediately noticed an old gentleman walking towards her at the far end of the corridor. It was common for attorneys, paralegals, or secretaries to work through the night, so seeing someone at 3 a.m. is not unusual. However, when the temp entered the corridor's intersection and made a left turn, she noticed the same old man walking towards her in that direction. I heard a scream and ran towards to meet her. She was frozen with fear, trembling and trying to speak. I tried to console her and ask her what had happened. She finally calmed down when I explained to her that the World Trade Center is famous for its ghosts. The old gentleman she saw was a partner from the firm who died some years earlier. When her confidence came back, I took her to the firm's library and showed her a picture of the partner. Upon seeing his face, she became hysterical and asked for a cab voucher to leave. And she never came back. Another event with a deceased firm's partner was when one deceased partner woke up 2 staff members at the same time occupying 2 different offices. Back then, the night staff would find a cozy couch in one of the attorney's office and would take a nap during their lunch break. The deceased partners somehow entered their room and shouted at them simultaneously to get out. Both girls woke up at the same time and vacated the offices. They ran into each other and discovered that the same partner at the same time reprimanded them while they were dreaming. On September 11th, 2001, At 5 a.m., I encountered 4 ghostly spirits. Staff members that were more clairvoyant would witness 1 or maybe 2 spirits nightly. It's very unusual to witness 4 spirits in one night or in rapid formation. I must add that before arriving to work that evening, I was having a spiritual warfare that was very unusual. The 4 spirits that I encountered on September 11th appeared from my left side first, and in fast motion, they walked to my right-hand side and disappeared. The supervisor's station was far from the staff, so no one witnessed the apparitions with me. When the ghostly spirits disappeared at my right side, I turned to my right-hand side and asked the spirit if it was my guardian angel, hoping that no one heard me. The next supervisor was to replace me at 8:30 a.m. As a custom, I would have completed my daily report to the next supervisor and leave. However, this morning I was unusually clumsy. I couldn't get anything right, and the succeeding supervisor was laughing at my awkwardness. Then, at 8:45 a.m., we were hit hard. We were hit on the 59th floor when the first plane crashed into the World Trade Center. The force of the plane knocked me back towards the shelves, and the staff and I waited for the intercom's announcement from the building to report a bombing or something and to evacuate the building. But no one alerted us that we were hit by planes. Then I began to visualize the building collapsing, and in desperation I ran into the middle of the room and announced to the staff to immediately leave the building. I was somewhat hysterical. I envisioned the building collapsing on the same side the plane hit and told the staff members to follow me towards the middle stairway. My staff members were out of the building and far away when the building collapsed. However, I stayed in the building to help evacuate more staff members. Finally, upon checking the offices to ensure they were empty, I was prompted again to leave the building by my friendly spirits. Now, back in 1993, I took 2 hours to vacate the building, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't caught in the stairway when nature calls. So I entered the men's room just in case. This time, it only took 1/2 hour to vacate the building because the terrorists hit the building before most workers could arrive. Thank God. Unfortunately, I saw the brave firemen and policemen that would lose their lives that morning. I further witnessed body parts in the plaza. Unbeknownst to me, the second plane hit while I was vacating the building. I was about 5 minutes out of the building when 2 World Trade Center collapsed, blocking all exits from 1 World Trade Center. I always give God praise for the spirits I saw at 5 a.m. that morning because they stayed with me and ensured that my staff and I were safely out of the building. Only 1 person from our firm died that horrible morning. However, many of us and my friends from other firms did not make it out of that building. Friends that live in Manhattan stated that they saw the first plane flying very low, but when it reached 1 World Trade Center, it moved up and hit around the 80th floor. News reports stated that it was his intention to hit as low as possible to ensure the building collapsed. If he had maintained his position, many more lives would have been taken that day, including staff members and myself. We wonder why God saved so many, yet others died.